Many people that have dealt with pathologically narcissistic people describe dealing with a sort of Jekyll and Hyde phenomenon. In this video, I'm going to describe exactly what is meant by Jekyll and Hyde when we're talking about narcissists, how narcissists act as if they're in some kind of Jekyll and Hyde personality trap. And I'm going to describe why this is, why narcissists act this way, what is it about narcissism that causes this Jekyll and Hyde personality. And I'm also going to explain, most importantly, why this is not your fault. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. So to first define what I'm talking about with this Jekyll and Hyde personality, what I've personally experienced extensively is narcissistic people flying off the handle, sometimes erupting in emotional reactionary anger with little to no warning, or maybe just getting very, very upset over something that seems kind of silly, throwing a fit, throwing insults, seeming to be full of rage, saying all kinds of awful, hurtful things like, you never loved me, you never care about me, I don't even know why I spend time with you, why are you like this? And anyway, as ugly and venomous and angry as this can all be, like 2 minutes later, it's like it never happened. 2 minutes later, the same person can be sitting on the couch watching TV and say something like, "Hey, do you want to order a pizza tonight?" And it really leaves you feeling very disoriented and confused. Like, did I just imagine that tantrum that this person was throwing a couple minutes ago? How can they be sitting there like nothing happened when I'm still reeling with the emotional confusion and fear and pain that it caused me? What's going on? And of course, this can go in the reverse too. A narcissist can be sitting there watching TV, acting like nothing's wrong, acting like they're in a good mood. And then 2 minutes later, they can be yelling and screaming at you and acting like you're the worst thing that ever happened to them because you left the refrigerator door open while you were pouring yourself a drink, or you left the water running while you put the towel back up. I don't know. And this can be equally confusing. Like, are they really this angry and upset with me because of this little thing I did? Am I really that bad? Or did what I do really upset them this much? It doesn't even make sense, really. And another way that narcissists can exhibit this Jekyll and Hyde personality is by reacting to the same things in completely different ways. Like, there's no way to predict how they're going to react to certain things. Maybe you met them for dinner and you were 5 minutes late one day and they just flipped out on you and said that you don't have any consideration for them and you probably wouldn't have been late if you had been meeting your other friend, and why don't you ever think about them? Why don't you plan ahead? Yada, yada, yada. And just becoming enraged at how inconsiderate and rude you are to be 5 minutes late, right? And then maybe 2 weeks later, you're meeting them for dinner again and something goes wrong. You get stuck in traffic or something and you realize you're going to be 5 minutes late again, meeting them for dinner, and you're just totally stressing out. And you're just thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to rip into me and tell me how awful I am and inconsiderate I am. And then we're going to have a 3-hour argument over this. Oh, and you're just totally dreading it. And then you show up maybe even 10 minutes late. And they're just like, "Oh, hi. Oh, was the traffic bad? Thanks for coming." And it's just so confusing. Like, last time I did this exact same thing 2 weeks ago, it was the worst thing that has ever happened to you in your whole life. And now it's like no big deal at all. What gives? And one more way that we can see this Jekyll and Hyde personality is in how they can tell you how important you are one minute, how much they love you, how much they care about you, how they do anything for you, and just be so affectionate and loving. And then the next minute or the next day, suddenly it's like you're the worst thing that's ever happened to them. And they don't know why they're wasting their time with somebody like you. And that can be really confusing as well. How can somebody's feelings for you change on a dime like that? One thing I'm not really going to address, but I'm going to address that I'm not going to address it, is how many narcissists will act one way in private, will treat their family members or very close romantic partners or very, very close friends. They'll treat them one way, and then in public, they act completely different. They treat people in public completely different, and they seem to be a completely different person in public than they are behind closed doors. That's very common with narcissists, but in my opinion, that's not as confusing as what I just described. It's kind of obvious. A narcissist wants to look good in public. A narcissist cares about their reputation and their image, and they also need a punching bag. So, you know, the people that are going to stick around, or people that really have to stick around, they're going to treat them one way. They're going to blame everything on them. They're going to use them as emotional punching bags and whatever else they need. And then when they go out in public, they're going to put on the face and the image that they want the rest of the world to see. So that's terrible, but it's not really very confusing. So that's not really what I'm talking about. In this video, I'm going to talk more about this confusion, this confusing element of narcissistic personality, where they can seem so enraged and upset over something that doesn't even matter, or maybe even something important, whatever. Enraged and upset one minute, and then suddenly it's like it never even happened. It's like suddenly no big deal. Now, if you try to ask a narcissist, why do you do this? How could you be so upset 2 minutes ago and now you're acting like nothing happened? What's going on? You'll probably get an answer like, what are you talking about? Or, you're still upset about that? Or, what, do you want me just to be angry all the time now? You're upset because I'm not angry? Or, why do you have to focus on the negative? What, I'm not allowed to get upset every now and then? You have to just focus on that? Or, what about all the times that I was nice to you? How come you're not asking me about why I'm nice to you? Basically, just anything to beat around the bush and never really address or acknowledge what you're trying to ask them, which is like, why are you so upset one minute? And then the next minute, it's like it never ever happened. Because I don't think narcissists even understand why this is so confusing and so strange. And that's what I'm going to get into, is why they do this and what it is about narcissism that causes this behavior. First of all, narcissists don't really have a stable personality to begin with. Everything that they do is contrived. It's an image. It's a character that they've written. There's no true authentic identity in a pathological narcissist, or if there is, it's nowhere that they are able to access or identify with it. So everything you see a narcissist do is equally inauthentic, I guess, except for when they're expressing rage. But that's an emotion. It's not really a personality. They're really good at expressing their rage, and that's about the only piece of authenticity you're ever going to see. So as far as personality goes, there really is no authentic personality. Everything you see is equally contrived. So Jeckyll and Hyde, I mean, they could be acting any way one minute and any way the next minute, and it's all equally contrived. It's all equally something that they've made up in their head that they think looks good. None of it is really real or based on who they really are. The next reason that they do this is because they're really a slave to their mood. And their mood can change on a dime, as any of our moods really can. You know, our moods can fluctuate and change all the time for any little reason, but most of us are able to separate our mood from our perception of reality, and at least to some extent from our behavior. We understand that just because we're in a bad mood doesn't mean everyone in the room is out to get us, or just because we're in a bad mood that it's okay to take it out on whoever's in front of us. Most of us grown adults understand that we need to separate our mood from our reality and from the people in our lives. But narcissists don't really understand this. They interpret their reality through their mood. So if they happen to be in a bad mood for whatever reason, that suddenly becomes their reality. And that's everything. It's everything in that moment. Nothing else means anything. 2 minutes ago does not mean anything to them. And that's how they can seemingly change their personality so quickly, is because they don't remember 2 minutes ago emotionally. I mean, they remember what was happening, but they have no emotional memory of it. It's kind of like when you're in a really bad mood, everything seems a little crappier than when you're in a really good mood. It's like that, but much more magnified and taken much more literally and given a lot more meaning. Narcissists interpret their reality, or they get their news from their feelings, and they really think that their feelings are the end-all be-all message of what's real and what is actually happening around them. So when they're in a bad mood and they're feeling crappy, they really believe that that is because whatever's happening out there around them is some terrible, awful thing that's out to get them, and that they need to punish somebody for this. They don't understand that their mood is separate from the rest of the world, and that they can't interpret reality, external reality, based on how they're feeling. So basically, if any little thing sets them off and makes them feel frustrated or annoyed or insecure, they have to blame it on somebody else. And if you happen to be in the room, they're going to blame it on you. It must be your fault. And they can't let you get away with that. So they're going to yell and scream at you and punish you and let out all their anger and frustration out on you because you're the one that made them feel so bad. Obviously, you obviously must have done it on purpose because you were the one that was in the room when they started feeling bad. Now, another reason that they do this is to escape accountability. When they are in the throes of a tantrum and they're letting out all their anger and aggression and frustration out on you, it's making them feel better. This is the only way they know how to regulate their emotions and calm themselves down, is by taking it out on you or somebody else. Taking it out on or blaming it on anything or anyone other than where these emotions are actually coming from. So this is really the only way they know how to make themselves feel better, is to rip you to pieces and make you feel terrible and make you carry the weight of whatever pain and frustration they're feeling. And then they feel better. So now that they've made you feel awful and have sat and yelled and screamed and insulted you for 3 hours, well, they feel fine now. So now they're ready to sit and watch TV and, hey, maybe we should order a pizza. And they fully expect you to just absorb everything that they just dumped on you. And they don't want to have to pay for that. Why should they have to pay any consequences for whatever it was they had to do to just make themselves feel better, especially when it was all your fault in the first place, right? If you really care about them, you owe it to them. You owe it to them to carry their negative emotions that you caused. And then when they feel better, you owe it to them to just play along and feel better with them so that they don't have to deal with the consequences of hurting your feelings, because it's not their fault in the first place because you're the one that made them feel bad. So this is really a way of escaping accountability. Once they've gotten their aggression out and they've fully punished you for whatever they imagine you've done, that's the end of the story. We need to move on now. And the only thing that could possibly be left is for them to acknowledge that they went overboard and acknowledge that they took things out on you that aren't your fault. And they are not going to do that. They don't want to take accountability for anything wrong they've done. They have managed their emotions in an extremely unhealthy, abusive way. So they're done. And they don't have enough empathy for you to pay an additional price in order to help you feel better, which is to take accountability, admit they're wrong, and take steps to improve their behavior and stop doing that in the future. They have no interest in doing that. And they really believe that if you care about them and you want some type of permanent relationship with them, that it is your job to accept however it is they want to treat you that makes them feel better, and then not impose any consequences and not ask for any kind of accountability. It's your job to do that if you really care about them. That's how they view this, because they don't have any sense of reciprocity, and they don't see why they should have to give anything up or do anything that makes them uncomfortable for your benefit. Like I said, especially if they really believe that whatever pain or frustration or anger they were feeling that they were taking out on you is your fault. Why should they have to make themselves feel uncomfortable and admit that they're wrong or out of line when you're the one that caused all the problems in the first place? And I think it's equally important to understand that this is how narcissists regulate their emotions. Narcissists don't know how to regulate their emotions. They don't have the tools. And what's really important to pair with this and to state is that they don't care. They don't want to learn how to regulate their emotions better. They don't want to learn how to regulate their emotions in a way that doesn't hurt other people. So when I say that they don't know how to regulate their emotions in a healthy way, and that this is how they regulate their emotions, by taking it out on other people, I think some people might think that I'm trying to apologize for them or make people feel bad for them. But I want to make it clear that they don't want to learn better habits. They aren't interested in that because taking things out on other people works for them. It may be the only way they really know how, but they are not interested in learning any other ways. At least the vast majority of them are not interested in learning how to regulate their emotions in a way that doesn't hurt other people. Now, why is it important for you to understand this if you're dealing with a narcissist in your life? It's really important to see this in a realistic way because this is presented as your fault. Like I've been saying, the narcissist thinks that they're punishing you for something that you caused because you were the closest person when they started feeling like they were in a bad mood. And so they pretended or believed that it was all your fault because they don't know where else to put these emotions. They don't know who else to blame. They certainly aren't going to look in the mirror or self-reflect on where these emotions are actually coming from. It's much easier to blame it on you. So they're going to twist things around the best that they can, mainly to convince themselves that it's all your fault. And that's how many of them do such a good job at convincing you that it's your fault. So if you, left the water running while you were hanging a towel up and then shut the water off, and they start screaming at you about how you're so wasteful and how when they were a kid, they had to hike up a hill to get a bucket of water from the well. I don't know. They can really convince you that you leaving the water on really is the reason that they have become so enraged. And if you would just not leave the water on, then they wouldn't have been so upset. And it really is your fault because you did something that really triggered them. You did something unique that really makes them upset. But if we go back to the example I gave towards the beginning of this video about how maybe you met them 5 minutes late for dinner and they flew off the handle and became enraged and told you how disrespected they feel when people meet them late and how inconsiderate you are. But then a week or two later, you accidentally do the very same thing and they're not upset at all. These are the moments where you can really see the truth that it has nothing to do with whatever it is you did. Whatever flaw you have or whatever mistake or misjudgment you may have made is the excuse that they use to blame you. It's the excuse that they use to fly off the handle and start insulting you and convincing you that you are at fault for the way they feel. It is not the reason. You meeting them 5 minutes late for dinner is not the reason that they are upset. It is the excuse they find to pretend that it's the reason, to pretend that it's your fault, that they feel bad. And this creates the illusion that you have control over this. This creates the illusion that, oh, if I just try extra hard not to meet them late for dinner ever, then they won't get upset with me anymore and the problem will be solved. This is a really important part of what actually creates a trauma bond, is this inconsistency, this unpredictability combined with the illusion that you do have some sort of control over this or responsibility for it. When really, in reality, this really is quite random. The narcissist is looking for reasons to take their emotional problems out on you. They are looking for reasons and they are going to find those reasons. And then they're going to convince you that if you had just turned the water off in time, or if you had just taken the garbage out earlier, or if you had just taken your shoes off before you came in the house, then they wouldn't be so upset right now. It's your fault. You're the reason that they're so upset. And what makes this worse is those days where things go right, where maybe you meet them late for dinner, but they don't fly off the handle. And then you start thinking, okay, well, maybe I'm doing things right now. Maybe I'm finally good enough and I've finally won their approval and I'm finally making them happy, because they have these intermittent days where they seem happy with you or affectionate or accepting or whatever. This creates the kind of feeling that we might get when we're playing a video game and we keep playing the same spot over and over and over and over again because we can't quite get past it. But we just want to keep trying. We just keep thinking, if I just do this a little bit differently, then maybe I'll get it right. Maybe I'll get it right this time. And it can also happen like when we're playing a slot machine in a casino. If I just give it one more try, I can get this right. This is how narcissists make us feel with their inconsistent, unpredictable mood swings, and especially with the way that they convince us that we have some sort of control. If we just try a little harder, we might get it right someday. When in reality, we cannot change the emotional problems of another person. And no matter how hard they try to convince us otherwise, we are not responsible for any of their tantrums, any of their moods, or any of their anger. So I think that's the most important thing to understand when we're looking at this Jeckyll and Hyde type of behavior in narcissistic people. There's all kinds of different ways to explain why narcissists do this, but the most important thing to recognize is there's nothing you can do to stop it. There's nothing you can do to make this person be rational and reasonable and stop flying off the handle over things that you have really tried to do the right way. There's nothing you can do to turn this irrational, angry person into a rational person that's nice and fair with you. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.